Good morning, ladies and gents. Today I have some ideas for a bunch of little things, more than anything else. Stuff that needs to be poked at, but nothing huge that needs to be added, because honestly, we're starting to hit that point where we're not feature complete by any stretch of the mind, but we're starting to get to the point of most of the basic, easy things are in place. So a lot of the UI needs to be tweaked. We're getting to the point where we need to start thinking about user experience and how the interface is going to mesh with that, and how we want to make this as easy or difficult to use as possible. One of the biggest things, I forgot I left fights on all the time. One of the easiest things to check in on is just the fact that kind of the usability as a developer is here, and then also we'll probably want to check in on that's weird. This bar's not updating. Whatever. We'll want to also check in on some stuff like what it's like for somebody who's never played the game before, somebody who's kind of able to mess with it without needing a tutorial quite. And then from there, what we need to do is kind of construct enough of a playable area that we can see the strong and weak points of the game as we go along. So, let's see here. We've got some basic stuff. We've got a lot of very simple things in place, but what needs help? Well, one of the first things I can't help but notice is the fact that this object is it's trapped, and it's immediately noticeable that it's trapped. And so you aren't given the option to just straight up open it without setting off the trap. And that's kind of something we need to handle. Also, another thing to note is that the poisoned is not actually being handed on to the person who should be getting, or to the people who should be getting poisoned. So like I said, lots of little things, really. That's mostly what today is going to be about, cleaning up some of those little details that we just haven't gotten to, or haven't really had the time to start in on yet. Let's see here. Container, weapon, item, container. Let's see, where did I put that trap stuff? That is the question. I'm pretty sure it lives in item container. We're starting to get enough files here that I'm starting to lose track of what goes where. Happens. Even to the best of us. Okay, so definitely here's the dictionary of targets and effects. That's fine. The question becomes... Dog hacking up water. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Okay, so when we trigger the trap, here's the trap procedure that we run. If... So we say the words that they get poisoned, but we don't actually add it to the list of things happening to them. So what we should do is say, well, we have this target, and we should probably add a condition. Ta-da! Nice and simple. The joys of a good, I should say workable, architecture are kind of showing in some places. I've got a bunch of to-dos floating around. We'll take care of those another time. Good day, Moldy Moss. So, let's see here. We've taken care of that. There's some other UI stuff I want to handle, specifically what happens if you have a key. What happens if you want to just open the chest without checking for traps. And also how you would go about the whole unlocking it. Because that's the other thing. If it's locked, that's one thing. But if it's not locked and it has a trap, we need to figure out how to actually go through it. It won't actually let you open it. You can try, and you'll probably set off the trap, but it won't let you open it still, which is mean, but as a developer, I tend to lean towards the mean things that players hopefully find interesting. So, let's see here. What do we need to do? We need to figure out how to get this container window to have a little more interesting details to it. Specifically, let's see here. Where's that prefab? Container window. So we have the open UI, we have the trap UI. I want to add some more to this, because obviously this is not the only way through to handle this. I also like the text to say leave instead of close, because the chest may not be open. Let's see here. This is going to be our container choice UI. And the container choice UI is going to have some pretty simple buttons that just do basic controls on this thing. So, if I can figure out where the heck to do this. Text, image, there we go. Buttons in the UI. I am blind today, apparently. Interesting. I can't help but notice that the container trap UI is a standard transform versus the container open UI is a rectangle transform. More than a little bizarre. More than a little bizarre. But okay, moving on. Life goes on. Okay, so button number 1 should probably be... Let's see here. What is button number 1? So we've got opening it. We've got let's see. Opening, disarming, picking it open. Trying to think if there's anything else. Casting a spell on it might be a possibility, but that's not one I have in place right now because a knock spell doesn't exist. So let's just go with the stuff we do know. Specifically, I'm trying to figure out how much information I want to give the player and how much I want to keep to myself. For example, the fact that it's locked or open is one kind of piece of information that I could hold very close to my chest if I wanted, or it could be something we give to the player. You click on the chest and it says, would you like to disarm trap or pick the lock? Or you could go so far as to say, disarm trap, pick lock, open chest. Right? We can make this 3 buttons, we can make this 2 buttons, we could even skip the whole button thing altogether. You click on it and it just says, hey look, there's a trap. And then after you disarm the trap, it says, hey look, it's still locked. Oh, using items. That's going to be kind of the biggest thing here. That is going to be kind of obvious. So we have our use key button. Probably shouldn't say item, it should actually just say use key. Also, hate it when we continue to use the wrong font. So let's fix that. So we have use key. What else? We've got... because using a key kind of precludes anything else. You use the key, it disarms the trap, and it unlocks the chest. So that's kind of the most obvious way to handle this. So we've got a use key button. We've got getting eaten by the chest. Yeah. Let's see. So use key. What else? Probably a disarm button, just to keep the players on their toes, for lack of better words. We've also got, let's see, using the key, disarming. The open button, the most obvious one. Yeah. Which the open button will probably get swapped out for a lock button if the chest is clearly locked, just to keep the player from completely losing their minds. That or I could just leave the open button here. We'll see. Why don't we put too many buttons in and then remove things later? Kind of the opposite of my usual philosophy on stuff like this, but today I feel like doing things a little differently. Because we have a lot of very easy prompts we can use to replace some of this stuff, especially if it turns out that the system is too complex or silly, or we've set something up completely incorrectly. We also need to figure out how to get the text to quite fit where we want it to. A little smaller on the font size will do the trick, though. So, use key. You have to pick a character. And then once you've picked the character, you need to pick the key. Kind of a two-step process there. Not a huge fan of two-step processes, but we'll figure that out. Will the player be able to close a chest and go back to it to get the items left inside? Yeah. I mean, already you can do that. It's just the fact that right now we're skipping a bunch of steps. If we think about user experience, and you walk up to a chest and click on it, and it just kind of goes, yeah, sure, you're disarming me now. There's a little bit of a... what's the word? There's an abrupt change in the player, in their experience when you do something like that. And we want to make this a nice smooth experience from end to end. We want to keep the abruptness for crazy things like combat or stuff like that. Drinking unknown potions. That's another good one. I like abruptness there. Drink a potion. Oh, look, you've been cured of everything. Drink a potion. Oh, look, you've been given everything. Poison, disease, turn to stone, all of it. You're all of it all at once. That actually would be a terrifying potion. Don't drink that one. Use key, pick lock, disarm, open. Yeah. And all of these will need to tie back into our container window, of which I don't have the file open, but let's open it. There are no dwarves in the inn yet. We're not to the point of having NPCs in the world yet. We're not even to the point of having story in the world yet. And that's pretty basic early stuff. Content and I take a little time to get to know each other first. Okay, so... what do we got? Use key. I'll have to figure that one out. That one is going to be that two-step process. We're probably going to need a picker. I'm kind of tempted to start putting something like that into my system every time I have a UI function, and also to dump them under the Unity functions, not the public functions. Public is something I should be calling, versus Unity functions and UI stuff I feel like should have not its own section, but it should be in its own part of the code. So I'm kind of thinking about rearranging my code a little bit. Not going to be a huge rearrangement, but slight enough that I have to think about it and do things consciously in order to avoid mucking up anything in my code. It also will make my code a lot cleaner, so if I come back later to something I don't remember and I kind of go, what did this do? it'll help me remember. So, the use key function, that one, okay, let's just put a bunch of functions in. UI, pick lock, what else do we have? Disarm and open. Now, there is one case in which we want to skip all of this, right? We know it's not trapped. We've opened it before. That's the one case where we've done all this. We've seen the contents of the chest. We don't really want to have to click on the chest and then click open every single time, especially for chests with nothing on it. So it's definitely something to think about if there is a chest or not, and whether we need to handle that. Disarm, open container, pick lock. Okay, so there's our 4 buttons. So when we start, let's think about this for a moment before I dive in. Yeah. So we've got the container open UI. We also need to grab a couple other pieces of UI and kind of take care of them all at once. Let's see. So if there is no lock, if there is only a trap, we probably don't want the pick lock or disarm. So let's just rearrange this slightly. Yeah. We need a couple more references as well, because I don't want to be digging around. Well, could I be digging around inside of the object? I could. It wouldn't be the first time I'd done it. So let's just do that normally, because I should only need it once, is the other thing. So if we store references, references stick around. That's a bit of memory that gets taken up. Versus if we don't mind spending a little CPU time working on stuff, hunting for things, then it's not going to be all that bad. So the container choice UI, if it's locked, let's see. Do we know if it's locked or not? No, because we don't even have a way to lock it yet. Let's see, the item container class itself actually has the details on what's inside of it and what's going on. So, yeah, there's no locking or unlocking it. So for now, why don't we just turn those off? See here, container choice UI, and then we say so pick lock and use yeah, well, pick lock and use key can both disappear at the same time. I mean, the other choice here is we could leave use key on all the time and have it also turn off traps. It's the other possibility. I guess I should be using proper names for these, so it's not just the pick lock, it's the pick lock button and the disarm trap button, or is it just, no, it's the disarm button. That's fine. This shouldn't actually be inside an if statement. I'd be silly to actually leave it there. What we should be doing is saying set it active or not based on that. And there's actually one more decision that needs to happen here after all this gets done, if it even matters. So if, for example, there is no trap, and anything else. Now we don't have anything else aside from being trapped right now. So we can just skip essentially to the good parts where we say open the container. And because we know a window already exists, we're just doing a little UI update inside of here. Let's see here. Where's that UI update function? There it is. Okie dokie. Yep, looks good. Of course, without any of this tied in, it actually won't do anything to have this here. But we can still apply the changes and tie some of these functions back in so that they do things occasionally. So disarm button, you go next. Open. And pick lock. Now this opens up a couple other cans of worms that I haven't handled or thought about quite yet, but it does take care of some of the most obvious stuff. So we say disarm trap if, let's see here. I actually don't like this update UI function. Mostly because it likes to take over control of what goes where. I'll think about that for a little longer while we put this on. So when we say disarm trap, we need to grab the, it's the container choice UI. Turn it off. And then grab the trap UI. And turn it on. That one's pretty simple. The open container, if there's a trap, we set it off. Otherwise, we're in pretty good. Let's see here. So, if so if there isn't a trap, let's see. If there isn't a trap, or if there is a trap, sorry, we say containerref.trigger trap. And we do have a disarmor, even though they may or may not. I'll have to think about that. That might be another use for a character picker. You say open it, and it says, who do you want to open it? Might mean nothing. Might mean a ton. That'd be kind of funny. And just to make sure this is in here, triggering the trap should turn it off. So we start the coroutine. We should probably wait for that to finish. And then do the open stuff. Picking the lock, we don't have anything for quite yet. We need to figure out how to get that lock picking minigame separated into its own piece so that we can attach it and unattach it to canvases and make it usable. So that's kind of a different set that we need to take care of. So let's see here. Use key is also... These all require more information. So there is a key ID already on the item container. So that'll tell us whether or not it's actually locked. Because if the key ID is blank, or if the key ID... I don't know, if the key ID is blank, then we know that a key won't work. So let's see. Use key. Oh, we also have to pick who and then pick the key from there. So there's a couple steps here as well. So let's go through these one at a time. Let's just check on disarm trap. Make sure that we either broke everything or broke nothing. And I shouldn't have hit play. I should hit first apply followed by close. So that now I click on it. I see that there's a couple UIs turned on at the same time, probably because of this silly update UI function. So, use key, great. Open. Oh, okay. When you open it, we also need to remove the UI. Herp, derp, derp. And once again, like I said, this might be a good case for something like a coroutine. So let's actually put that in. Let's see. Because pretty much anything in which we have to wait a certain amount of time and then handle something after the fact is a lot easier to do inside of a coroutine than create crazy statements that kind of depend on events and states getting thrown. So, let's see here. Because if you trigger a trap and set it off, obviously bad things need to happen Where's... I'm just trying to think of also maybe I could go through and simplify a lot of this stuff. But I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that at this point, I'm trying to think of who could call open container. That's the only piece of other information I want to know. The item container itself, on party view click, it says open container. We pretty much will never open the container ourselves anymore, so that's fine. Because if we can simplify this and make life a little easier for ourselves, I'm all for it. So you click on it, great. Saying open container very literally opens the container. I shouldn't have any weird stuff about yeah, no, I think this is how I want this to work. Opening the container should essentially do exactly what I say it does. It should open the container, it should set off traps if there are any, and if there's any text or anything else, that needs to go as well. So open container should be a pretty all-around safe thing for me to start off and then let it run. And triggering the trap may or may not actually open the container afterwards. But I can leave that for the moment. No, let's remove it just so that this stays nice and clean for us. Trigger trap. That looks pretty decent. Because now what we can do is, we can say that opening the container also will contain the whole setting off a trap thing. So you open the container, and then we say, by the way, if there's a trap, trigger it. So if there is a trap, trigger it. And that's pretty much all I got. Oh, and the person, ooh, the person disarming. That is a good question. There's kind of a lot of bits and pieces we have to keep thinking about here. It's not the end of the world, but it just causes a lot of effort to go in. If there aren't... Ooh, okay. If there's no trap, and... So if we can't open it, we should just open it straight up. And I'm not worried about anything crazy happening inside open container, so I can pass it a null character, because nobody is going to have crazy shit done to them. There's no traps, there's nothing to go wrong, so there's no need for that character to exist in that call. Remove item, open container, okay. And when we say disarm, Who actually has the disarm container function call? Okay, somebody does use that. So we're going to disarm the container. And disarming it opens it, which is not good. Disarming it should not do that. Disarming is essentially actually the antithesis of what we want. The only thing we want here is the... There. Just a little data change, really. And then we say open container, where we have a character who's disarming it, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to cheat in this case. I'm going to put a to-do to remove this. But for now, just for the sake of having the button work and do something, we're just going to grab a random living character and just pass it in. Do we need a coroutine here? Let's see. We hide that. If there is no trap, we trigger it. And then we open the container afterwards. Triggering the trap doesn't open the container. Also, triggering the trap should null it at the very end, which it does. Okay, good. Binary Pinecone, is this my own engine? No, this is all Unity. This is all inside of Unity. It's just a very complex sequence of events when you do certain things, and I want to make sure that it all works out. This is actually one of the cases where I'm tempted to try and use a tool like Playmaker. Problem is I don't know quite enough about Playmaker to dive in and just be like, yeah, let's add it to the code, let's do some crazy stuff with it. Although it seems like a great use case for it, because you've got this long string of events that all need to happen. And they need to happen in a certain order every single time, and that's just something I don't have the access to right now. And opening containers and handling item containers is one of those simple, nice little state machines, right? We've got all the bits and pieces inside of it that need to interact with each other, but aside from that, it's a nice compartmentalized little set. So what I think I'm going to do is maybe poke at this a little longer, but I think I'm going to start in on figuring out how to get use key and pick lock to work. Actually, gosh, those are just as crazy in their own ways. Because what I'm tempted to do is I own Playmaker. I could just import Playmaker and start in on adding Playmaker controls to some of this UI stuff, to some of the events in which you say, I click on this, and then we do a Playmaker set, where it's Playmaker, for those who don't know, is a finite state machine system that is really powerful and allows you to tie into a lot of Unity's functionality pretty quickly. So that's definitely something I've been looking into. I just haven't had the time to really learn it enough that I feel like I can just drop it in on stream and kind of run with it. Maybe tomorrow that's what we'll do, is I'll actually dump Playmaker into here tonight, and then tomorrow we can figure out how do we tie this all together using Playmaker. Just because of the simplicity of it, and also removing code when we can. I'm going back to that, the less code the better. So if I have a tool that does something for me, I'm going to probably favor that over just coding everything by hand, like you'll note that I am currently doing. Okay, cool. So, disarming the trap. Let's see if that one works yet, because I know I haven't tested recently. So we click on this, we hit disarm, it brings this up. I can't help but notice that this is still not doing anything. And the controls didn't get freed up when I set off the trap either. So I've definitely got some fixing to do here. Okay, so I walk up to it, I click disarm. Why isn't this running? That's part number one. That should be going pretty much all the time. The container window should be handling this, whether or not there's a trap. Okay, so right now the size is marked as not a number. I wonder what's happening that's causing the skill bar's size to not... Oh, maybe the fact that it's unavailable for a while. When we first start, it's not immediately visible, therefore its size is set to some weird value, and when I try and modify it, that turns into a not a number issue. Let's see if that helps, actually. Still garbage. Still not happy about its size. I wonder what's having it get set to not a number in the first case. Ah, okay, so the disarmer is somebody with no skill. It does a divide by zero error. The divide by zero causes a not a number issue. Wash, rinse, repeat until the whole thing is done. I don't think I need that extra boolean floating around. I'm kind of happier without it, honestly. Okay, so why is it picking somebody with no skill? Why is somebody's skill in the party getting reset to 0 for this instance of the game? Search steel. For some reason, I know for a while, and actually still it seems like, I feel like I lose some of the skills on some of these characters sometimes. I know that probably isn't actually the case, but it feels like it. I feel like on more than one occasion I've reset this skill to a meaningful number. Okay, there we go. So the other thing I want to do is there's a little... I don't know if I have enough time to do this, but when I say disarm trap component, if we don't set it off, I need to find that component again really quickly. And I want to do something to it, such that, let's see, here's our, I don't want the image. Oh, do I want the image? No, let's not. I just want the button. And once we have the button, we can say interactable is false, just so you can't keep clicking on that same component and possibly screw yourself. That would be bad. Prefabs. Here's our container window. I just want to look at something real quick. The trap UI. We have the button, and then we have the check button. Okay. So if you successfully turn off one of the components, it should now disable the button. Good. Okay. Trying to think, like I said, lots of little things today. Lots of little pokey things that are just kind of causing trouble, and we want to stop them from doing so. So the other thing, if I disarm the trap, well, it's nice that it opens the container for me. I guess I should probably switch to the to that specific UI. So I should turn off the container trap UI. And turn on what did I call it? The container, I have the open, okay, it's the container open UI. There we go. We walk up to the chest, we disarm it. Hey, look, this one and this one. Hey! And then we can leave. Now, if I click on it again, it comes back to here each time, but the chest still opens. So I do need to... I need to switch over to that UI each time. So I'm going to make a little helper for us to handle that. Open chest, or open container. And when we open the container anytime, we need to do the following. We're always going to tell the container we're opening it, and then we're going to hide the other UIs. And we're going to show the open UI. So this one can bugger off. We'll just call this open container now. So I say disarm, I correctly disarm it, great. I walk away, I come back, I click, and it just skips straight to that every time. Because we've been through this before, there's no need to mess with it again. Let's see if that's also the case if I set things off in the most terrible way possible. So I go in, I say, great, let's just disarm it, and let's disarm that. I'm waiting, but I'm not seeing anything. Interesting. Okay. So if I want to trigger the trap followed by opening the chest, I need to start this as a coroutine. And then when that's done, I need to open the chest after it. Which would mean I need to make another coroutine, which seems incredibly silly. Oh boy. Alright guys, well unfortunately I'm out of time. I do have to take off a little earlier than usual because I have server duties to take care of, so thank you very much guys for joining me. If you haven't seen this before or you're wondering what the heck I'm up to, I am making a first-person dungeon crawler, and if you're curious and want to see more, please, I encourage you, hit the little heart, the follow button in the lower left-hand corner of the stream. Let me know that I have your support in this endeavor and that you want to see more of this. In the meantime, I'm going to think about this a little more. I'm probably going to try poking at adding Playmaker. I might do another stream tonight where I try and just add Playmaker, just for kicks, just to see how well this does or doesn't work. So yeah, thanks again guys. Hopefully I will see you tomorrow. I'll do my usual 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time stream then. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time I'm online. Later.